Hi, I'm a forester here, and welcome to the fourth in a series of videos I'm calling My Next Gun. I started out making these videos for people who are new to handguns, but if you've hung with me long enough to be considering a go-to-war handgun, then you're probably not a newbie. If you watched my summer concealed carry video, you've seen this baseball field illustration before. It's a good way to illustrate my 4 basic handgun needs. I'll move quickly through the first 3 bases since you can watch those videos to get more detail. First base is labeled Home Defense. This was my very first basic handgun need for my wife and I. And playing first base is my Smith & Wesson Model 66 and 357 Magnum. Second base is labeled Concealed Carry. I got interested in concealed carry within 6 months of buying my first handgun. And playing second base is my Walther PPS in .40 Smith & Wesson. Third base is labeled Summer Concealed Carry. The need for a different carry system in the summer is obvious for people living in the South. Playing second base is the All-Star Ruger LCP in .380. Well, by now you've probably figured out what type of handgun is playing home plate and fills the void in my basic handgun needs. It's a go-to-war gun. Here's a question for you to think about. What do these 3 handguns have in common that create the need for a go-to-war gun? I'll come back to that in a minute. But first, who is playing home plate? Well, that's an interesting story in and of itself. I did my research and I came to the conclusion that the go-to-war handgun for me was a Glock 17. It was readily available, very reliable, it could be accessorized, it was reasonably priced, and it came highly recommended. But that's not the gun I bought. Here's the go-to-war handgun that I bought, a FNP 9. This is FN's full-size 9mm handgun. I'll let you view this gun while I tell you the story. You see, I had been hearing about this gun factory in Columbia, South Carolina for some time. I wasn't familiar with the company and didn't bother to look into it for years. The name of the company sounded foreign, Fabrique Nationale de Herstal. But after I became interested in handguns, I heard that they offered factory tours, and I arranged for a tour for some coworkers and myself. Well, that tour changed my mind about the go-to-war handgun for me. The factory is FN Herstal's plant in Columbia, South Carolina. It's the only gun factory that FN operates in the United States. There's actually 2 plants there. One is 100% military, and the other plant is for handguns. They make all the barrels and most of the other metal parts for their firearms. I'll put pictures of the plant and some of the guns they manufacture at the end of this video. FN has quite an interesting history. Although FN is a Belgian company, their history is interwoven with American firearms companies. When John Moses Browning parted with Winchester over licensing fees, he turned to Fabrique Nationale in Belgium to carry on his firearm development. FN agreed to pay Browning a royalty based on sales, something that Winchester refused to do. With FN, Browning brought to market the Browning Auto 5 shotgun, and after his death, the Browning high-power pistol. FN eventually went on to purchase both Winchester and Browning. At the Columbia plant, they have displayed a Winchester gun collection that they found in storage when they took ownership of U.S. Repeating Arms. I arranged a second tour of the FN plant recently just to get pictures of the gun collection for this video. But as luck would have it, FN executives were having a meeting in the boardroom, and I didn't get access for the pictures. A tour of the plant can be emotional for people who have sons and daughters serving in the military overseas. We saw mothers who were manufacturing machine guns that their sons would use in Iraq and Afghanistan. The best part of the factory tour came at the end when we were given a chance to buy an FN gun. 3 of us bought handguns, and 1 bought a rifle for an upcoming elk hunting trip. I also bought a sweet FN Gentleman's folder there. I'll do a review of this knife later. Why did I make an impulse purchase to buy an FNP9 instead of the Glock 17 that I had fully researched? Well, number one, it was produced by South Carolinians and I wanted to support their jobs. Number two, seeing is believing, and I saw the quality of the manufacturing processes and the testing each gun went through. Number three, the price was right. I'm not going to show my receipt like I did for the Ruger SR1911 video recently, but you can't beat it anywhere. I will say that the price for this handgun plus 2 extra magazines and tax was under $400. Maybe I need to get to the features of this gun before the video gets out of sight long. But first, remember the earlier question, what does this gun have that these other 3 guns don't have? Well, it's a capacity of 17 rounds, 16 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. None of these other handguns have above a 7-round capacity. With 3 magazines, I have a total capacity of 49 rounds of 9mm ammo. Why did I settle on 9mm for my go-to-war gun? Well, this will be the gun that I practice with the most of any. The ammo needs to be effective, available, and cheap. That said 9mm to me. Well, let me go over some of the features of the gun. The lowers are made out of polymer and the uppers are steel. Now on the factory tour we actually got to see them mill these slides out of the metal blanks. The gun has a very ergonomic shape. I've shot similar Glocks and SIGs and I like the way this FN feels in my hand the best of all. It has a very deep notch here and I think that's one reason it's so comfortable. It also helps protect my hand from hammer bite. And I think it looks good too, especially with this modified beaver tail. It has an exposed hammer. I like that in that I can either fire it in double action or single action. Now one of the features that I want to go over in a little more detail is the decocker. The decocker on the FN is in a rearward position that's very easy to reach. I think this gun, the FN, is very similar to the SIG, and I happen to have a SIG also. Both of these guns have been safety checked. But the decocker on the SIG is in a forward position, and one thing that I've noticed is when the gun is in shooting position, to decock it I actually have to rotate the gun to an angle so that I can reach that decocker. I don't have to do that with the FN. When the gun's in shooting position, all I have to do is sweep down and that decocker's much more accessible. So I like that better. It does have a slide lock, and so the gun locks back, the slide locks after the last round. It has a very easy takedown, very similar to the SIG, but basically just rotate the takedown lever and the slide comes right off. One thing I do like are the long rails in front on this FN. And reverse it. To put it back on. The texturing on the grip is adequate. I'll mention that later again. It has a replaceable back strap. And this is one gun that has a rail that I will probably end up putting a light laser attachment on it. The sights are nice. They're 3-dot sights and they're very accurate. It also has a loaded chamber indicator, and I think the trigger is very responsive both in double action and single action. Now this gun has been safety checked. Well, let me summarize. What are the positives, the things that I like the most about this gun? And one thing is I just think it's a good looking gun. I think it's very modern looking, very attractive. But also I like the way that it fits in my hand and it points very naturally, which I think results in more accuracy. It feels the best in my hand of any gun that I've ever shot. Are there any negatives? And really there aren't many, and the ones that I'll mention are very minor. I mentioned the texturing on the grip is adequate, but it could be more aggressive. I think that would help. Also, the mag release, I've never had any problems with it, but it would help if it extended out just a little bit further. And the last thing is the loaded chamber indicator. It's very small and it doesn't protrude very far when there's a round in the chamber. In fact, I had had the gun for a couple of weeks before I even noticed the red paint that's on top of the indicator, because it just doesn't stick out very far. Now, what about accuracy? I've been to the range just recently and I brought some targets. All of the targets are very similar at close range. They're all sub 2-inch groups as measured from the center of the point of aim. This is at 5 yards, and all of these were shot standing and with no support. This is at 7 yards, and I tend to shoot 4 in a cluster and then have one that's a little bit of a flyer. But again, a sub 2-inch group. Okay, it opened up just a little bit at 15 yards, and still a sub 2-inch group, except the flyer was a little further off. And finally, at 25 yards, here were 6 rounds, and like I say, standing, no support, and it was basically a 4-inch group if you exclude this one flyer here, and all fit within the outline of the body. Well, I put several hundred rounds through this gun, and I've had absolutely no feed issues. My daughter did have one round jam when she was shooting the gun, but I'm sure it was caused by her limp wristing the gun. How have I used it? Well, this gun has taken the place of the Smith & Wesson 357 as my primary home defense gun. Combined with a light and possibly a laser, it can't be beat. The Smith & Wesson is still in use, though, as it was originally chosen as a handgun my wife could use. So there you have it, all 4 basic handgun needs filled. Home defense, concealed carry, summer concealed carry, and go-to-war gun. This is the 4th in a series of videos that I plan to make on my next gun. The remaining videos will branch out from handgun needs into handgun wants. Please subscribe if this theme is of interest to you. What's your next handgun? I welcome you to post comments or video responses below. Take care and enjoy some close-up shots of the FNP9 and other guns FN manufactures.